Now, today's seniors living well with your host, Laurie Webb.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the final, for this season, episode of Today's Seniors Living Well. Aging should not have to be a puzzle. This is the 6th in our spring series, and we'll be back in the fall, but today we are going to have some great guests as usual. Todd Reby actually took time out of his busy schedule because we really didn't have time to finish last week, so he's going to be on. Last week we talked with Dr. Ron Ask, who, even at age whatever I am, I learned some stuff about taking care of my teeth that I had no idea after 67 years of taking care of my teeth. Dr. Van Fossen and Tamara Harding were here. And now today from the hospital we have another one of my favorite guests who knows a whole lot of stuff, Tim Sammons. Tim, thanks for coming on so quickly. I understand you have a breakfast engagement after here.
I do.
The ROP graduation?
Yeah, all the high school seniors who have spent time with us this season are graduating. So we have a breakfast honoring their achievements.
Do you have to do a little speech to them?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, we'll get you out of here in time.
I'm the keynote speaker. So,
good. Well, I'm sure you have some important things to tell them.
It's fun. We have a really good time.
It's a great group of kids. So it's springtime. And
it is the season.
I have seen people carrying their inhalers in their top pockets these days.
Yep.
What do we need to worry about with allergies? And
well, as we progress into the season, we're pretty much into it, but the weather's been so goofy that it's hard to figure it all out.
Yeah.
But for seasonal allergy sufferers, we always just have the basic precautions. If it's windy, good idea to stay sheltered if you can. Don't go outside if you don't have to. If you're susceptible to grasses and weeds and pollen and things like that, mow when it's not windy.
Right.
And then some indoor things that I always remind people to do, and I myself often forget to do, and that is to change your filters on your furnace and or your air conditioning, and change your batteries in your smoke detectors.
Right.
Because if you have things like propane leaks and things like that, that can also affect your breathing. So for treatment, over-the-counter medications is a good way to start. A lot of people who have seasonal allergies don't really need a prescription, but at the same time, I always advise people to, if they're going to change, add, or delete any medications, please consult your physician.
Right, because there's a lot of interactions between allergy meds and
a lot of interactions,
the other stuff.
And they can, I've seen some pretty significant reactions. So it's always a good idea to consult your physician prior to taking any or changing any medications. And a lot of seasonal folks, sometimes it can skip a year.
That's
so
because the plants have
their cycle, and so sometimes they may not. Some certain plants may not produce those what we call antigens that produce a reaction. So things to look out for there. Also, indoor things, my wife wanted me to remind folks to look out for things like scents and candles and things like that may.
I mean, God, you walk into any store these days, and there's like a whole row of. You have to kind of hold your nose as you're walking down the aisle.
Sometimes you do. I love candles, but I'm not affected by it. But for those that are, it can be, it can be pretty significant. So she wanted me to tell the guys to go easy on the aftershave.
And that's something at the senior center that we really have to pay attention to. Especially as the weather warms up. People wearing too much perfume and too much aftershave. And, we actually last year had to post a thing on the front door out of kindness to people that have respiratory sensitivities and allergies. Use a light hand with your...
And as always, hand washing is always one of the biggest things to prevent any other airborne pathogens. I was just watching the news last night, and they said that the MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, is prevalent in airlines. And so they took a test aircraft and kind of dusted it with MRSA and then used wipes and it was still growing about a week later. So
oh my goodness.
yeah, so if you're traveling, airborne, we use airborne quite a bit. It works. It boosts your immune system, gives it that little extra.
The over-the-counter.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah.
Emergency or airborne. But this little tablet looks like Alka-Seltzer.
Like a Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah. So those are good. But hand washing always. And of course, there's always new and exciting viruses that are out there. We heard last week that there were the Middle East respiratory syndrome. There were 4 patients, I believe, that were identified in this country that came over.
Yeah, the media is making a huge deal of that, and I think if they're going to concentrate that much time, I wish they'd concentrate on things that most of us are more at risk for, like the MRSA.
Exactly. Yeah. MRSA is a little bit more prevalent than the MERS, and the MERS is actually not as contagious as some of the other not so popularized viruses and things like that.
They really took a hold of it.
They did.
And there's always new over-the-counter allergy medicine coming out too.
Yeah.
But like you said, check with your doctor.
Always.
And make sure that it's not going to interact with your blood pressure medicine or your diabetic medicine or whatever. Yeah.
Over the last 10 or so years, there have been a resurgence of what we call blockers. In order to have a reaction from something that's in the air, you have an antigen that gets into your system and it creates a release of histamine and all these other mediators that cause an allergic reaction. But if you block any of those steps in between, you won't get an allergic reaction. So it's something to ask your doctor about. Those would include things like Singulair and Accolade. Zafirlocast. So those are leukotriene inhibitors is what we call them. And that's over the last 10 years, that's kind of the new wave. And they're always coming out with newer things, as you've said. Yeah. So.
Do you have any suggestions for people? I mean, like I said, I see people carrying their handheld things in their pocket or in their pocket. What about care of those squeezed nebulizers? Is there anything we should be teaching our patients?
Yeah, they should rinse those as often as you think about it. Every day if you can do it.
Rinse them.
Just take the canister out of the L-shaped dispenser, right, and wash that little tip in there. Because there is some residue that forms on the mouthpiece, and I always recommend getting a spacer. A spacer is a tube about this long, and the inhaler goes in one end, and then there's a one-way valve in there. So it basically eliminates improper technique. I've seen a lot of patients with a variety of different techniques, and it's all on their tongue. So the spacer, it kind of gets rid of that, and so the medicine goes where it's supposed to.
And where can you get a spacer like that?
You can get them at the pharmacy. We can dispense them. We dispense them anyway. Anytime a doctor orders an inhaler, we dispense an aero chamber with it. So.
Does it need a prescription, or is it just?
No, not for an aero chamber.
Okay, so
it's just a device. It's not a medication. Good. So. The other thing about that is, what was I going to say? Oh, I know, my phone number. I wanted to give everybody my phone number. It is 223-7581. That is that is our prompt number 1. It's our phone tree at the hospital, and it goes to either respiratory or the sleep lab. But I'm in there too, so if you want to talk to me directly, 223-7581.
7581. Yep. Okay. And the sleep lab's still active and well?
Yeah. We're, as a matter of fact, we have an in-service today. They're going to come in and teach us how to use what we call the outpatient. They're called Novosom. It's a home study.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're going to be transitioning a little bit to home studies as well.
To teaching people how to learn how to sleep better.
A lot of times we use that as a screening device, and then if we find that they've got some other sleep issues, then we can bring them in and get an official, a full-on test in the lab.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad that that's still.
It's a great service.
I know so many people that they still have trouble sleeping.
I'm the poster child. Yep.
Sleep.
Still 9 years. Yeah, and I can't sleep without it. It really is valuable. So
So just, well, we have a couple more minutes. A lot of our seniors are really active, and you've already talked about not going and doing yard work and stuff when it's windy.
Right.
So what other timing things about, like, when you're going to do things if you have asthma or allergies?
Early in the morning. Typically, it's not quite as windy, and here in Amador County, we have that afternoon breeze that frequently comes up. So early in the morning, when it's not hot and it's not so windy, those are always good times to get out if you're going to do gardening or watering or whatever yard work you need to do. Those are,
Great.
So just be mindful of, and the air count that's usually on the news. If it's a Save the Air Day,
or on
pay
your
attention to
smartphone
that.
app.
Yeah.
I see so many people that use those. It's cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, we have a lot of people that really like to exercise. We have people that walk. We have people that run. We have people that swim, play tennis. If you have asthma or allergies, or say you're taking care of your grandkids, are there some guidelines about when's good to exercise and when's not? What should you watch for?
Well, you should always watch for exercise-induced asthma. So if, for instance, if a child is exercising and they are visibly short of breath, there's a chance that they may have the onset of a childhood or an exercise-induced asthma. Years ago, there was a statistic that came out that 42% of all Olympic athletes had some form of reactive airway disease.
Oh my goodness!
42%. Yeah.
Well, all that breathing they do.
Yeah. Exactly. So they, so that's another good thing. But always consult your physician, and if you need any other guidance on that, you can always call me at the hospital, and I'll help you however I can.
That's great.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm always pushing fluids, so. Drink your fluids, keep your lungs healthy.
That's it. Drink the water.
Well, thank you for coming on short notice. And,
my pleasure.
We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure as always, yeah.
We'll see you next year, or next series probably.
Next time.
Okay, next time.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Stay tuned. We're going to switch from health and talk with Todd Raby again about some financial health.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.